Last week, when I first saw the space Vespas, as they're being called, I just kind of shook my head after laughing because people kept honing in on them as if they are a legitimate way to attack Disney Lucasfilm when they're not, quite frankly. There are dozens of things I criticize about Disney Star Wars first, and about this show in particular before I even got to those. They're pretty funny, they're memeable, but that's it. And when you use arguments like this, when you use stuff like the bikes to explain why you think something is bad, then inevitably the other side, to minimize the conversation to that simple, if not simple-minded level, put out articles like this. Vice, why are people so mad about these Star Wars Vespas in the Book of Boba Fett? The Book of Boba Fett has some fans questioning how Star Wars the series really is, but that isn't up to them. Screen Rant, why Boba Fett's colorful Vespas have divided Star Wars fans. Boba Fett's biker gang uses Vespa-like vehicles in Episode 3 of the Book of Boba Fett, and the colorful hover scooters are dividing fans. And you can probably tell where these articles go, calling out supposed toxicity in the fandom and stuff like that. Dude bros, you know how their arguments always go on stuff like this. And yes, there is a certain level of whataboutism in these articles pointing out, hey, there's been goofy stuff in Star Wars before, right? But I'm less concerned with pointing out their whataboutism than I am in avoiding hypocrisy on our side. But to get to the point of this video, I just want to point out that when we focus on stuff like the multicolored speeder bikes, we miss stuff like this. Inverse. Boba Fett is correcting the biggest prejudice in Star Wars history. Let that sink in for a minute. Inverse is saying something is the biggest prejudice in Star Wars history. Now, obviously, I or 90% of the people watching this video don't give a rat's ass what Inverse thinks on anything, what their shit takes. But we're going to use it to illustrate a point here. The article is centered on this guy right here from the 3rd episode and his conversation with Boba Fett. Toward the end of the episode, Boba Fett feels bad for what he perceives as an ableist slur, telling Scad to keep an eye out. Scad has a somewhat obvious cybernetic eye, so Fett apologizes quickly, feeling bad for accidentally pointing it out. But Scad isn't offended, telling Fett, "You don't have to be sorry, mate. I paid a lot for this. I'm proud of my eye." This is a completely different conversation, but just to be clear, Ryan Britt of Inverse believes that artificial augmentation is the biggest prejudice in Star Wars history. So he goes on to give what he thinks are pretty clever examples from past Star Wars. And look at this right here. They always have to take salt and rub it into the wound, don't they? Non-canon legends! If we dig into non-canon legends, it's easy to see that Star Wars narratives often default to depicting cyborgs and or people with artificial parts as evil. The primary antagonist in the game Star Wars Masters of Terras Kasi was Arden Lyn, a woman with a robotic arm which, you know, just proved she was evil. This is not canon, to be clear! But prior to the Book of Boba Fett, Kligson was the first voluntary cyborg in Star Wars history. In Droid World and Star Wars at large, this kind of transhumanism or artificial augmentation has mostly been used to illustrate the negative qualities of villains, but now, in the Book of Boba Fett, that trope is getting reversed, for the better. So Ryan Britt is either being ignorant here, in which case he needs to question whether or not he should be writing on a topic he has not mastered, or he's being intellectually dishonest. Star Wars, number 7 from 1977, one of the first stories to take Star Wars beyond the films, had a story on Han and Chewbacca making sure that a cyborg spacer could get a proper burial due to prejudice. So there we have right there, 2 of our heroes acting nobly. Where did the writers of that comic, Roy Thomas and Howard Chaykin, get the idea for that storyline? Probably from right here, a scene from Star Wars 1977. And do we really need to point out the obvious to this dumbass? Lobot, 1980, Empire Strikes Back. He rescued our heroes. We could probably go on all day, citing examples of cyborgs acting virtuously in the Star Wars universe. Kraken's Rebel Field Guide, along with many other books, detailed rules and equipment for cybernetic enhancements in the Star Wars universe for player characters, and by definition, player characters could not be evil. But to break this down in real world terms and logically, there is a difference between being apprehensive about something like the Google Glass and pushing someone in a wheelchair down a staircase. Disney Lucasfilm writing Boba Fett as a politically correct, bleeding heart hand-wringer is what we should be concerned about and criticizing when it comes to Disney Star Wars, rather than space Vespas. This kind of writing has one type of audience in mind, and it isn't the supposedly disenfranchised group of the weak. It is the minority of society that likes to publish articles and trumpet outrage across all media. People like Ryan Britt, who can be expected to equate apprehension about cyborg enhancements to ableism. When you critique modern media, it's okay to have some fun, but in what appears to be a target-rich environment, pick a target with high value.